welcome back everyone. Today I bring you the final round of Torneio Interno Beira-Mar, which was the 7th round. 6th round my opponent didn't show up, so I got the win for free. And yeah, let's see how it went. My opponent was André Carrilho, an unrated player, and he started the game with e4. I went c6, knight f3, d5, takes, and d4. So we pretty much have an exchange Caro-Kann. Yeah, I decided to play knight c6. My opponent goes knight c3 here, which I think it's already a mistake. I think it's a small one. The engine points out that black is tiny better now after knight c3. The reason is that you know, the knight on c3 kind of blocks the c pawn, and yeah, it's when you can, you should protect your pawns with your pawns instead of pieces, you know. And this way the queen can come to b3 pretty quickly, or a4 in some variations, and you can always reroute with knight bd2, knight f1, knight g3, or you know, knight d2, knight b3. So yeah, I think knight c3 is a little bit of small mistake, I would say. So after knight c3, I just go knight f6 on. So my opponent goes bishop e3, which is a little bit passive. Just pointing out that maybe with knight c3 you should probably play something like bishop f4 with the ideas of playing knight b5, somewhat like the Jobava London. But yeah, here and in most of these variations you can always play a6 to kind of stop this. But you argue that your opponent wasted the move on a6, maybe for not much. Yeah. But yeah, my opponent goes bishop e3, I go bishop g4. My opponent goes bishop e2, I go e6, and my opponent goes knight e5, which actually surprised me. Here I just thought that my opponent was gonna castle and I would play bishop d6, and we just have a normal game of chess. But my opponent plays knight e5 early, and yeah, here I kind of stopped and tried to think of what should I do, because actually knight e5 is a pretty interesting move that asks me a question. Do you want to take the bishop? Do you want to take my knight? What do you want to do first, you know? And yeah, I calculated bishop e2, and I calculated knight takes e5, and I prefer knight takes e5. But yeah, I thought that on bishop e2, which apparently is the best, I thought that my opponent would take on c6, and I would take on d1, and my opponent would take on d8, and here I would have to take the knight, and he would take my bishop. And I thought, okay, this position is like, it's fine, but it's pretty dry. I can't really castle, but it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I didn't really like this, although the computer says that actually if my opponent takes my queen here, or if my opponent doesn't recapture the bishop immediately after I take on e2, the best move is to take with knight on e2, which makes sense. But yeah, I thought that my opponent after bishop takes on e2 would take on c6, and we'd have this massive exchange. And I thought that, okay, of course I saw bishop takes e2, but I didn't really like this, because I thought, okay, my opponent just plays knight b7 and like equal material. I mean, I have the open b file for my rook, but yeah, I didn't really like this position. It just looked messy. And but yeah, so I kind of misevaluated the position, and I decided to go knight takes e5. I thought it was simpler, and I liked what I got from it. My opponent took my knight, I took his bishop, he took the bishop with the queen, and I played knight e7. And yeah, I was fine with this position for me. Attacking the pawn on e5, I'm gonna play a quick rook c8, maybe bishop c5 to trade the bishops, maybe just bishop e7, who knows. Here my opponent played bishop d4, which kind of confused me a bit, but it's a way to protect the pawn. And I played a6. I just didn't really want to deal with queen b5s or knight b5s. Here, I was a little bit. I was wondering what I would have played if my opponent went queen b5 here. I was trying to figure out what I would do. Would I protect the pawn? Would I not protect the pawn? Yeah, I don't know. Interesting position. Maybe just queen c7 here. I think rook b8 just looks, it doesn't work because it just takes the pawn on a7. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting position here, you know. Also, yeah, I don't know, maybe, yeah, a6 doesn't work because it's attacking b7, so it's an interesting position. But my opponent goes bishop d4, and I play a6, just to stop any queen b5s or knight b5s. And my opponent castles here, and you see the arrows here. The arrows are here to explain. So here I make actually a huge mistake. At first sight I thought, okay, I play bishop e7 and it's all fine. Or I also thought maybe I just play bishop c5 and it's all fine. The thing with bishop c5, I thought, okay, he takes, I take here, and yeah, I mean, let's say, I don't know, maybe f4 here. I thought that my position, I mean, was fine, but my problem with playing bishop c5 is that this is kind of my good bishop, right? Because almost all my pawns are on light squares. And yeah, I kind of want to keep this bishop because this is my good bishop and this is his bad bishop. So yeah, it kind of is hard to offer these trades when, I mean, you're trading a good piece for a bad piece, you know. So I didn't do it. But my problem with bishop e7 here, which I didn't play, was a quick f4 f5 coming. And yeah, I didn't really enjoy being on this side of the board with an attack brewing here. For example, if I castle here, I think f5 is pretty annoying. At least it looks very annoying. Like, the computer doesn't really care, but I kinda care. I decided to play g6 first, which actually is a huge blunder, like mega blunder. I want you guys to pause the video and try to find why g6 is such a blunder. There's some tactics here for white which give him a pretty much winning position, and I would like you guys to pause the video if you want and write down in the comments the variation that you recommend for the whites. Hope you're enjoying the video. I just wanted to point out quickly that 82% of you guys that watch my videos aren't subscribed, and I would highly appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button. Thank you. Okay. Now let's see why this is such a bad move, g6. The move here for white, or the combination that for white that really gives him a really good position, starts with knight d5. What a move. Knight d5, just completely sacrificing a knight. And why? After you take the free knight, there's e6. And e6 is very annoying to deal with, because my opponent is not only threatening my knight on d7, but is also threatening the rook on h8. And if you try to defend both threats with knight f6, which looks completely fine for black here, I'm just up a piece, there's e7. And after something like queen takes e7, there's queen f3, attacking the knight 2 times, and also threatening to come here with the rook in the future. So yeah, this position is already like, the computer is already suggesting like knight e4. So if you here you try to take with the bishop, you run into bishop takes f6, which is very, very nasty. You can't take back because there's a pin on the e file. So yeah, the computer here after knight takes d5 here just recommends you admitting that you made a huge blunder with just bishop g7, and after knight c3 you just lost a very important center pawn. And yeah, this position is already like +2 for white. It's not like it's winning computer wise, like +2 is already considered winning, but there's still a lot of game to be played. So you know, it's not like he's up a piece, he's up a pawn, and he still has to prove that he can convert his extra material. But yeah, my opponent didn't play this, and he played knight a4. Here I decided to just play b5. I didn't really understand why he played knight a4. Looked like a weird move, because now he just has to go back to c3, and he just helped me gain space on the queen side, which I want to do in this type of structures. I want to do a minority attack. And here my opponent just collapses completely and plays knight c5, which just loses a piece on the spot. Not difficult to see after bishop takes on c5. If he takes back, I just take back with the knight and I'm up a piece. And here, yeah, my opponent was very frustrated, and I was like, okay, just won this game. My opponent here played c3. I took on d4, and yeah, I castled here. My opponent plays rook c1. I play play queen b6, and after rook fd1, rook ac8, and my opponent plays queen d2, and I was like, okay, I'm completely winning. Let me just reroute my knight to a better square. Here, knight b8 with the ideas of knight c6, knight a5, knight c4, or knight c6, knight e7, knight f5. So yeah, but here my opponent actually just goes all in with h4. And you know, I was like, okay, that's cute, stuff like that. I mean, okay, big deal. H5. And then my opponent goes g4, and I was like, oh my god, this guy is going full berserk mode on me, and he really just wants to checkmate me no matter what. And yeah, here I thought for a while, because you know, even though realistically you know that this can't work, because chess doesn't really work like this. You can't just push pawns in front of your king, go all in, sacrifice everything and checkmate, especially when you're down a piece. So, but it's scary in an over the board game when you actually have to think for yourself. You don't have computers, you start, you know, getting a little bit scared, because no one likes to be attacked. But here I decided to take this challenge, and I understood what his intention was after I took the pawn on g4. His idea was to play h5, and here, you know, the obvious mistake that you can't do is that if you accept this pawn sacrifice, you just lose on the spot. Queen g5 check, king h8, queen takes h5, let's say king g7 here, queen g5 check, king h8. This looks just like a draw, but there's no draw here. There's actually mate coming for white after king g2 with the unstoppable you know, rook h1 coming. You can take this, but yeah, rook h1 is coming and it's unstoppable. So yeah, here black just loses if he takes the pawn on h5. But of course, this is like a slow game, and you have time to calculate and to evaluate the position. And of course, I didn't take on h5. I played king g7. So kind of also the thing with h5 is that he, in some positions, he can also just play queen h6, which is very annoying to have the queen so up in your business, you know what I mean? So here I just decided, okay, king g7, just stay solid. If he plays h6 here, I'm very happy because there's no attack anymore. So yeah, I was just chilling here. And after king g7, he plays king g2. So he has ideas of putting a rook on h1 and you know, taking here, mating me, something like that, which yeah, it's a nice try. But here I just trade a pair of rooks and I play queen d8. So okay, I just have to shift my pieces into the king side just to try to defend a little bit and consolidate, and then I will be just up a piece if I don't get mated. So here my pawn plays h takes on g6, and here I find a very cool looking move, and I feel like a very nice one and practical one. Here I could take on g6 with a pawn, which is completely fine, but you would play rook h1 here, and you know, I would have to probably challenge the h file with something like rook h8, and you know, he could trade and then probably like, no, I couldn't actually take with the king. If I take with the king, it's actually a draw here. Yeah, there's like nothing I can actually, yeah, this is just a draw. Is gonna just keep checking me, and my extra knight won't be able to do much. So here after, you know, rook takes on h8, I would have to take with the queen, and then you would have some annoying moves like queen here. I think this is just annoying to have this queen coming into the position. I didn't really like this. So instead of taking the pawn on g6, I ignored that pawn, and I did sacrifice the pawn back with the rook h8. So yeah, I was like, cool, you can take on f7 if you want, like I don't really care. And yeah, that's what he did. He took on f7. Here the good thing about rook h8 is that now if he plays rook h1, I just actually trade, and you know, I can just take here and it's fine. He won't be able to infiltrate my position. So here he just took the pawn, and I played queen h4. So now it's like, call an ambulance, but not for me, bro, not for me. And yeah, here I know it's just completely over. Can't even challenge the h file anymore, and yeah, he just plays king f1. I play queen h1 check, and I give pretty much a bunch of checks, and I just win. He resigned here, and yeah, I did get third place, and as you saw on the thumbnail of the video, I actually got a nice looking trophy. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I wasn't really happy with getting third place. As I said before, I was really aiming for first place in this one, but yeah, I got third place. It is what it is, and yeah, hopefully next tournament I can have better results. I did end up losing like 4 points of elo on this tournament, which is nothing, but yeah, it still stinks a bit, you know. But yeah, we live and learn, and next video I will start covering other tournaments and other games. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.